Hello and welcome to today's video. I missed you guys. Now today we will be talking about the Alibre Toolbox, and as I'm sure you've seen in the title, we will be talking about how to use the toolbox to help in the creation of a welded frame, make it easier, right? But a quick disclaimer, the method I'm about to show you is not a frame generator. It won't work in every situation. And out of the box, Alibre does not have a frame generator, but one of the prolific contributors to Alibre, Nate Liquid Gravity, has made this frame builder for Alibre. Now, it is amazing. You can look this up on YouTube, see some videos, demos. You have a free trial that works indefinitely, just has very limited capabilities compared to the commercial version of it, and it's decently priced as well. And you can take a look at the pricing here. It's all transparent, as is with Alibre itself. This is a beautiful add-in, and I would say it's completely production ready. Let's take it one step at a time and start with Alibre Toolbox, right? For the Alibre Toolbox to work, what you do is you set up your data in Excel, then you save your Excel file in the Toolbox location, and then you tell Alibre to create a report from it. Those data, those parameters you create in Excel come in as Alibre parameters, and you can assign them to various parts of your design, which will then be used to adapt your design, right? Now, the way this works is you create columns whose names will drive the Alibre parameter when it is imported. So let's do a quick example, and we will start with square cubes. And we'll use that for the frame example later on. So square cubes, we've got the size, right? We've got the thickness, and we have the length, right? And then I could start populating this, saying first one is going to be a 20 by 20, 2 millimeters thick, length of 100. Next one is going to be 25, 2 millimeters thick, length of 100, 25, 3 millimeters thick, length of 100. You see that these two rows are not identical, right? The 3 is different. And go on and populate the entire table. And also you see that I am inputting a length value within the Excel table, although I will assign this to be a user input later on. But even if you do use a value as a user input, you need to have a token value in there for when the spreadsheet is imported, right? So that's what you would do. But you know, square cubes, man, there are hundreds of them, right? So why go through all the trouble? Well, what I've done is I have downloaded a square cube catalog in PDF format, right? And which is this one. And I want to drag this data into Excel. So trick number one for copying and pasting with PDFs, right? If I hold Alt, you'll see that the icon changes a little bit. I get a square, and I copy only what is within the square. Okay, so this is where I want to stop copying, and I will go and paste it in a text file. And now I have that data in a text file and in a rather unfortunate configuration. But Excel can handle that. So we go into the data menu. We want to get data from text or CSV, open file location, and then select it. Windows likes that better. And here are my data, and they're completely unusable. So I will transform data, and this will open the Power Query Editor, which is it's basically magic, right? It's magic. You can do anything you want with it. It's hugely powerful, and I suggest spending some time with it. So now I want to transform this data into something usable, right? And what can I get out of this data? I can get the size and I can get the thickness. So the way this column is structured, I can first split it using the space, right, as a delimiter. And if I do that, look what happens. I get the 25 by 25 here, the thickness of 2 here. Here there wasn't a space to delimit with. I get a null. Why is that? Because in the catalog, this was supposed to be a 30 by 30 tube, and just there was a blank. So I need to play with it a bit over here. So how do I do that? Well, I go up here and I go to add column. I'm going to add a conditional column. And I'm going to say, right, that this column, I'll name it custom. I don't care. So if column name 1.2 equals null, right? You see we've got some null values there. So then the output there should be not a value, but another column. The output should be column 1.1, or else, right? The output should be column 1.2. In other words, wherever you see null in column 1.2, just draw the value from column 1.1. Otherwise, do nothing, basically. So let's hit OK. And here is, actually, I want to edit this step. So I'll just click the little gear and I'll just name this thickness, right? Because we just got the thickness out of it, right? And then I'm just going to click here and say, no, guys, you know, this is a whole number because it took the 3 in as text. How did I know? Numbers go on the right side of the cell, text goes on the left. So now that everything is on the right side, I know everything is a number here. And now the size here, well, it's a square cube, so I only need the first number, right? So let's split, go back to transform. Let's split this column now by a custom delimiter of X. Excellent. So this column is now useless. This column is now useless because I used it. So now I've got this column, which is actually the size. I will just rename it, call it size. But you know, I've got some null values, and in the places where I have null values, I would love it if the value above just dropped down and filled it. And sure enough, we have a fill command, right? Fill down, and I just click it, and I'm done. I'm done. I just transformed my data, and I'm good to go. And it didn't take too much time. Now, what happens here is it brings this in and it's a table. There are occasions where Alibre is going to be confused by this. So just select everything, go here where it says table design and convert back to range. And just for good measure, just go here and then delete your query. You won't be needing to update it. That's it. Make sure you don't have any connections. So what is this? This is just now an Excel spreadsheet full of numbers and nothing else, right? But these numbers happen to be the numbers I need for my toolbox part, and I didn't have to type in all of that. So I also need a length parameter, and we said that the value doesn't really make a difference because I'm going to ask the user to input it, but I do need to put something in there. So I just go ahead and type 100 in the first cell, and then you see there's a little dot or a little pronounced square at the bottom right of the cell. Just go there, the cursor becomes a cross, and I double click, and for as long as there's something to the left or right of it, it will add numbers. It will infer the pattern I want, which is correct. I want a pattern of 100s everywhere. And that's it. Well, so my Excel spreadsheet for the square cube is done. That's all I need, all right? So I will just save this now. And I just need to browse to the correct location. So where'd you put that? Well, you go into your C drive, you go into program data, which is a hidden folder, right? You need to unhide that. And you go into Alibre design, system files, toolbox, and you make a folder for the parts you want to make, unless you want them to be, there as soon as you open the menu of the toolbox. I prefer to have everything organized in folders. So just made a folder. So I go into that folder and I'll name this square cube metric, right? Because it's, well, actually Alibre has a complete list of ANSI square cubes. So these are going to be the metric ones. Okay, and we're saved and we're done. Also, please note that the name that you give to your Excel file is going to be the name of the part that you will create inside the toolbox, plus there needs to be one Excel file and one Alibre part with the same name for them to talk to each other, right? And another thing that will come up later, a single Excel file can drive a single toolbox part, right? I'm saying this because I'm going to use the exact same data to drive multiple parts in a bit, but I do need to make copies with different names, okay? So we're done with the Excel file for now. Go to Alibre and we'll go to Utilities, and I will remember to hide my license key. And after hiding my license key, I will click on Add Part from Spreadsheet. Now, as soon as you click this, Alibre is just going to go to the toolbox folder, right? So you need to put your Excel file to the correct location. I'm going to select this, and I want to say that the numbers I was putting in the Excel file, those 25s and 2s and 100s and whatnot, those were millimeters. I need to tell it that because Excel is a unitless system, right? I'll just hit OK. Now, this is some interesting behavior because I think that this is some built-in intelligence on the part of Alibre, because I think that when it sees the word thickness and length, it automatically makes it a distance, but it doesn't know what to do with the size name. So I need to tell it's a distance. And we've got two columns here: filter order and input order, right? So in the toolbox menu that will be created for this part, filter boxes come first, and there are list boxes. You drop down a list. And input boxes are just text boxes where you can type whatever you want. So filter boxes on the top, input boxes on the bottom, and then you just give the order here. So 1, the first box they're going to see is the size. Second one is going to be the thickness. And now I need to say that this is the first of the input boxes. If I type number 3 here, which I've done on many occasions, it tells me there's an error, right? So this needs to be number 1, and populate equations. And a Alibre port is going to be created and pop up with the same name, right? You see that up here. So now I just start designing. But if I go into my equation editor, right, you will see that I've got the 3 parameters I made. Size and thickness are grayed out. They all have an Excel file for the source. That's because you cannot do anything to them. Right? They need to be selected. Whereas the length is something that you can just type. Right? You can just type whatever you need in there. So with that said, let's go on the ZX plane. I'll do the first one real slow because we'll do at least 2. So select the ZX plane and start a sketch, center rectangle, and you select a horizontal constraint, and then you hit D and you create a dimension, and you give that dimension the parameter size. So let's make these 2 equal. So I've given it the length of the edge. These are equal, so this is square. Now I hit deactivate, extrude mid plane, and For the depth here, I can either type length as I did there, or just hit the FX button and select length as the parameter and hit OK. And now I need to do the fillets on the outside. Now, the fillets on the inside of a square tube are the same. They have the radius of that fillet has the same value as the thickness. So on the outside, it's going to be twice the thickness. Right? Again, I can just either type it or go in here, click on the name, hit OK, and then just say times 2. Oh, sorry. And just say times 2, right? And I'm going to select everything. If you don't know how I'm selecting through the part, go and check my black belt video and hit apply. Okay, and then I'm going to shell it. Remove this, I'll remove this, and I'll just say this is the thickness. Again, I could have hit the FX button and my square tube is done. Right, I just hit save. Yep, same name. It's on the correct, inside the correct folder. Hit save, and there you go. I made my first toolbox part, which is awesome actually. But before I go and show you how inserting it, let's just make some more. So I'll go open this file location. I'm going to copy this Excel file and copy it 3 times. Then I'm going to rename this 45 degrees. I'll rename this 30 degrees, and I'll rename this. So I just made a bunch of copies. They have the exact same data in them because they're the same thing. So look what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make a new part from an Excel file, and I'm just going to use this file now. Hit OK. Again, distance, filter order 1, 2, and input order 1. Populate the equations. I'll make this in a bit speedier manner. So there you go. Go. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So we make fillets now, and these that's the thickness. And all I need to do now is now the same process up to this point, but now I'm just gonna make an extra sketch here. I'm just gonna make a triangle here, and this is going to be 45 degrees, eh? And this is going to be size, and I'm going to use the midpoint constraint with 3 points. Put this in line with the rest of the tube and attach that there, and bring up the hold bar, extrude, cut, shift, tab, down arrow through all. And then I'm gonna mirror this. I'm gonna mirror it over the mid plane here now. And then I'm just gonna save. Oh, sorry. Then I'm just gonna save. Square tube, metric, 45 degrees. Okay, so what have I made here? So this is another toolbox part. It's another square tube, but it's pre-cut. 45 degrees at both ends, symmetric cuts, right? So imagine now that I want a square welded frame from square tubes, or a rectangular welded frame from square tubes, and I want those tubes mitered. Well, for square or rectangular frames, the miter is going to be at 45 degrees. So look at this. There you go. I already have it. Just make sure to remember, if you use this trick to make frames, right, that the length value only applies to the uncut length of this tube, right? So this edge is 100 millimeters, which is the length value, while this edge is only 50, right? So you kind of need to remember that. And with the 30 and 60 degrees, the cosine is going to come into play, and these numbers are going to, are going to have a bunch of decimal places. So you need to pay attention in that when you want to make a frame that is 200 by 100, right? You need to make sure that those dimensions are the outside dimensions of the frame you want to make. If you want to use toolbox parts like this and use them in a way that makes sense and build a frame. So now I'm just going to go ahead without any commentary, and now I'm going to make those two other types of tubes with the different types of angled cuts, and then I'm going to bring you back when they're ready. There we go. This is the 60-degree one. I've made all 4 square tubes. So how do we use this, right? These are the tubes. So how do you use this? Well, Alibre Toolbox parts only make sense in an assembly. So I'm just going to make an assembly called table frame, right? I'm just going to leave it empty, and then I'm just going to hit this icon, and please note that this is only available in Alibre Design Expert V27 and onwards. Here, if you remember, this is the same folder structure that I had in the Windows folder, right? And I just double click, and there you go. I have my cubes in there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a table frame that has a rectangular frame for a top and then 4 straight legs. The miter is going to be at 45 degrees, so I'm just going to select this one, configure and insert. So I want my table on the outside to be 3 meters by 125, and I'll just make it out of 30 millimeter square cubes. So this is going to be 3,000. All right, 3,000 or 300. Okay. I'll need 2 of those, and I will save. Now, the reason you need to save is that the toolbox is a generator and it will create new files, right? And I will save it in this folder called toolbox table. You will see that the Alibre adds a little suffix, right? Underscore 30, which is the first thing we chose. Let's add to that dash 3,000. Okay. So we've got 2 of these, and we need 2 more for the other ones, and we'll make this 1 to 5 meters, and that's going to be 30. Thickness of 2 is fine, and there you go. And we'll save this, change name again, dash 1250. Save. I've got my files here, right? So let's assemble these now in the XY plane. So I just need this to fix this. Y. I need this face. Let's face this. Oh yeah. Flip it that way. So then I need this face to touch the XY plane. Is it correct? No, I want it flipped. Cool. This cut face to touch this cut face, like so. Okay, and then I want this touch this, right? But what we've started doing here is we have started building our frame. Okay, so let's this now. Yes. I made a hinge. Okay. Let's get these 2 touching. There we go. And let's get the final one going. I want this to be on the XY plane. I want these edges touching. And I want these faces. Okay, so I have a square frame now, and I'm just gonna center it around the 3 planes of the assembly. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select these 2 parts and I'm going to show references, right? Let's do that again for the other one. And the way this is going to work, right? You see this little plane, because I made them as a mid plane, the extrusion when I was designing it, I have a mid plane now, right? And this is a win, because if I didn't do that, I would still have, you know, a reference here and a reference there, but I wouldn't have the middle reference, which now I do. So let's assemble this to this, assemble this to this, turn off the referenced files, and look what I have. I've got a frame perfectly squared. Now I want this to be a meter tall, minus the 30 millimeters, right? So I want the top to be a meter from the bottom. So I'll just go back to my toolbox, and now I will choose the uncut squared cube. I will still go for a size 30, thickness 2, that's fine. And I want, so yeah, 970, and I want 4 of these. Dash 970. Okay, so let's start assembling. I'll do that in high speed. You know what? I just figured it. I'm just going to pattern this thing. So I'll just click here, linear pattern, one path this way, and a path that way, 2 and 2, and this is, so that was 3 meters, but that's a 30 by 30 square, so that's 2970, and that's the wrong there. Huh? Look at that, spot on. And that was 1.25, so this is going to be 1.220. And there's my table, guys. That's it. Table frame. Not in the toolbox. You never save anything in the toolbox unless it is meant to be a toolbox part. And look at this, guys. Only with the built-in toolbox capability, I made a table frame, right? Something that you would use the Weldman's environment, if you will, in SolidWorks to make. Without such an environment, I just made it just using the Alibre Toolbox capability, and it's decent. It's definitely more work. It's not the efficient way to do it. If you want to use this for any sort of production work or service providing as a CAD service provider or anything like that, I suggest you go buy Nate's frame design add-on. But for anything other than that, I think this would work. And when I say simple enough, so let me do now another example, and I'm just gonna call this hexagon frame because I like hexagons. You might have noticed this in my videos. I'm not going to input anything here. I'm just gonna select a cube with a 30-degree cut. Okay. And I'll only need one. I'll make it 300 millimeters long. I'm gonna need one. So let's make that now. So what I'm shooting for here is a hexagon frame, right, with miter squared cubes. And of course, the miter is going to be a 30-degree cut, right, because it's a hexagon. Now I need to assemble it, right? So, well, I do know that this face needs to be there. Okay, that's good enough. And then I need this face and this plane to be coincident. Yeah, that would work. If they were coincident, that would work. And then I'll show the reference again. Here's that midplane that helps solve quite a few problems. And I'll just make that coincident to the z-axis here. And if my calculations are correct, which I very much hope they are, if I make a circular pattern, 6 points equally distributed around the z-axis, you have you have a hexagon frame of mitered cubes. So, I mean, this could be a table, but but you see that you can do all sorts of stuff. And all we did is basically create one Excel spreadsheet and then use it to create 4 different square cubes, right? And it's giving us so many options. And also, if you have the time and the will, you can also create square cubes with unequal cuts, right? So for the 45 degree, create 2 more and have 45 degrees on one side and the other side be 30 and 60. Go through all the combinations and you've got a pretty comprehensive catalog and you can do a lot, right? Now, you cannot drive it off of sketches, not easily anyway. And you cannot have a sketch and select where to place the profile and all that sort of stuff. For that, again, you need the frame generator from Nate Liquid Gravity. But hey, for the simple stuff, I think this is an excellent trick and a great showcase for the Alibre Toolbox. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want more videos like this, or just click on a card over there. And I'll see you in the next one.